I obviously don't ask for much out of Justin Trudeau's Liberal government. They're incompetent, corrupt, and they don't really care about the priorities that average Canadians care about. But the one thing I ask of Justin Trudeau and his Liberal government is that they get better at lying. I wish they were better at lying because at least it would make them more interesting opponents. They're so bad at doing communications work. Every time they put out a video, it just makes them less popular. Like their idea of how to like take this a strip out of Pierre Poilievre and crawl back in the polls is just put out a video where they say Pierre Poilievre's a liar and he wants to take away your rights, as if anyone's going to be like, wow, that really makes me do a bit of a think that maybe Pierre Poilievre, the guy who wants smaller government, really is just a secret fascist and he's going to shrink the size of the government to enslave us all. I It's horrible. They need to fire their entire communications team. Like the Liberals are being ripped off by their communications team. The Liberals are ripping us off, but somehow even they're getting scammed by the people they hired to do their comms work because these people make the Liberals look horrible every single day they wake up. If their head comes off a pillow, they make sure to dedicate themselves to driving Justin Trudeau and the Liberals even further down in the polls. But here's a video from former Liberal House Leader Karina Gould trying to clap back at the Liberals in this very cringy walk and talk video.
As we head into the May long weekend, here's something that we should all reflect on. 2 weeks ago, Mr. Poilievre said the quiet part out loud. In speaking with the Canadian Police Association, he casually mentioned that he was going to make his own laws and use the notwithstanding clause to make them charter compliant.
Okay, I'm just going to take this bit by bit because it's just full of lies. No. Pierre Poilievre is reacting to the fact that the courts in Canada on very common sense cases will rule in the most ridiculous ways possible. Like somehow the Supreme Court of Canada was able to find the right to die in whatever way you see fit as part of your right to life. So you have a right to live, but part of your right to live allows you to make the government take part in your death. That's ridiculous. They've slashed mandatory minimums. They've even said mandatory minimums in the case of many violent crimes are unconstitutional. They think that, like, tons of different things are unconstitutional, which there's no way of actually reading those into the law. That's why Poilievre backs potentially having to use the notwithstanding clause because our court system is out of control. The police know this. That's why he said it in front of the police association, because the courts are stifling their ability to do their jobs. I'll let Karina continue here, though.
He basically said that he was going to start taking away the rights of Canadians.
Now, this is the funniest part of this video. So she says, he basically says he wants to take away the rights of Canadians. He didn't say that. She's just saying that I think that that's what he's saying. And then she's going to move on to just saying that he said that. It's insane.
But he intimated, don't worry, not your rights, the rights of others. Now,
intimated means that he's implying, which means that, again, he never said any of this. Everything after Pierre Poilievre opens his mouth is just Karina Gould's interpretation of the worst possible thing Poilievre could mean. And then she moves on to saying this, which makes absolutely no sense at all.
Intimated, don't worry, not your rights, the rights of others. Now, when someone tells you that they're going to start taking away the rights of Canadians.
He never said that. You said that. You said that you even said he didn't say it. You said he's basically saying this. And then you're 5 seconds later acting as if that was literally the thing that came out of his mouth. It's like, it would be like if Justin Trudeau was giving a speech and I said, he's basically saying he wants to take away your rights and set up a communist state. And then like a few minutes later, I'm like, when a man tells you who wants to set up a communist state, you have to believe he's serious. Except that was never said. But Karina has nothing to work with. So she's just having to take a speech from Pierre Poilievre, which the Liberals are not taking any clips from because there's no bad clips from that speech he gave. And she's just having to tell you, take my word for it, that he basically said he's Benito Mussolini, 2.0.
Alarm bells should go up because it might not be your rights today, but it could very well be your rights tomorrow. And let's not forget, Mr. Poilievre has done this before. When he was Minister of Democratic Reform, he was the first Canadian minister, to my knowledge, to take away the democratic rights of Canadians.
You guys are going to be a little bit shocked that I'm going to say this. Karina Gould is lying. She actually is doing this thing called not telling the truth right here. This is a bill, the bill C-23 that Pierre Poilievre, when he was like the Minister of Democratic Reform or whatever, what this bill basically took away people being able to vouch that they were Canadian citizens to be able to vote. It took away the ability for people to use these VIC cards that were like voter identification cards. So it wasn't an actual type of, driver's license or passport. It was like this other form of voter identification, but it had far lighter barriers to being able to get it. So in theory, you could get all these VIC cards, then just hand them out to people who weren't the actual individual to have them go and vote, because the security on the VIC cards was not nearly the same as what would be in your passport or your driver's license. And this bill also did some other things regarding basically making it harder to cheat in nomination races inside parties. It made it easier to be able to fund your own race if you're the candidate themselves. And it did a lot of other things to make sure that you actually needed to prove who you were in order to vote. But she is going to pretend that this is taking away people's democratic freedoms, that we had actual guardrails around people voting. I read the Toronto Star article she references here, and basically they're saying, well, they stopped Elections Canada from doing get out the vote efforts. Yeah, it's not Election Canada's job to get people to vote. And the Toronto Star article back in 2014 is saying, well, that's not very democratic of not having more people vote. Voting isn't democracy. Democracy is people getting what they want out of government. Democracy is not forcing people to the polls or getting people who didn't really want to vote to go vote. And the problem with Elections Canada, whenever they do these get out the vote efforts, they're not driving around rural areas getting people like knocking on farmhouses telling them to vote. They're going around college campuses. They're going downtown in the cities and getting people where there's big concentrated populations doing outreach there, because that does make sense. If you're going to do a voter outreach thing and you don't have an unlimited budget, go where the people are. But obviously, that skews things in a left progressive direction, because the more concentrated the population in cities, the more progressive the population. So it's not Election Canada's business to be doing this when it cannot be implemented in an actually equitable way. And again, frankly, why are we wasting money getting to people to vote who didn't want to vote?
He made it harder for 500,000, 500,000 Canadians to vote federally. And alarm bells went up at the time. Whether it was elections experts, observers, academics, the media, Canadians writ large were concerned that he was making Canada less democratic.
Writ large, does anyone remember this story from 2014? Did anyone take part in a protest back in the day about this? No, it's just media fluff that the media freaked out about it. And when she's just referencing all these individuals, experts, advocates, the media, the public, no, it was just the media. And they tapped some hacky college professors willing to pretend that this is fascism, quoting them, and really all of the discourse was just in the pages of the Toronto Star and the Globe and Mail and Global News. It wasn't a widespread sentiment. I even looked up the story on Bill C-23 and Pierre Poilievre. I could only find the Toronto Star article. Nobody reported on this.
And if you are worried and watching what's happening in the United States with horror when it comes to reproductive rights, just remember his anti-women's rights conservative MPs and the anti-choice movement here in Canada are already thinking about how they can apply those same laws and make it harder for Canadian women to access abortion and healthcare here in Canada.
The Liberals really need to stop bringing up this issue. I don't think they realize how much Canadians hate them. Whenever they go after a controversial issue like abortion and they try and use this as a wedge between Canadians, all they're doing is making way more people pro-life. Because actually, a lot more people are far more pro-life than they let on. But because the Liberals are so unpopular, it's actually very easy to go out there and say, I don't like the anti-life agenda of the Liberal government. A lot of people are being like, yeah, sex selective abortion. The NDP and the Liberals both voted against making it a crime to assault a pregnant woman and make her miscarry. That's just considered a basic assault. Yeah, maybe these people are just flat out anti-life. They're not pro-choice. They're just psychopaths. So I don't think this is exactly the road that Karina Gould should be going down, implying that wanting literally any standard of ethics applied to this area of care should be like seen as a dangerous thing is ridiculous. Arnold Viersen and the pro-life conservatives are actually in favor of real healthcare. They are trying to get rid of this kind of pseudo healthcare out of these late-term pregnancy situations that it's obviously inappropriate to be applying to. We're like the only country on the planet who doesn't have standards around this stuff.
Now, when I was Minister of Democratic Institutions,
you did a bad job.
I reversed his anti-democratic laws and made it easier for hundreds of thousands of Canadians to vote.
Yeah, but remember, that's a really funny thing for her to bring up, because you'll notice that in 2015, when the law was still in place, we had a really, really high election turnout. I think it was like 64, 65% or so. Every election after that, voting went down. So it doesn't matter how much easier you make it to vote. If people don't want to vote, they're not going to vote. And the extra protections seemingly didn't stop people from voting in 2015 because they were motivated. It just stopped people who were obvious fraudsters from being able to vote. Doesn't happen often, but we shouldn't have any fraudulent votes in an election. But the Liberals don't care about that because they wanted to grandstand on this. It's not because I think they're secretly involved in voter fraud. What the Liberals want to do is they just wanted to pretend that they were the most democratic party in Canada, even though they said they wanted electoral reform and they punted on that. And really, they just had Karina Gould reverse that previous bill to pretend that they took electoral reform seriously. I don't even support electoral reform, but I can at least identify that what they were doing was trying to fix a broken promise by targeting a very common sense bill for destruction, pretending that that was going to make it so much easier for people to vote. And the public is going to be able to speak loud and clear now that Pierre Poilievre isn't muzzling them.
Because at the end of the day, I believe in people's rights to vote, and I believe in their right to democracy. And our government is committed to making sure that we uphold the rights of Canadians, whether it's their right to access abortion, their right to healthcare, or their right to participate in democracy. We are going to do that. So this long week,
other freedoms other than those three mentioned, those are out of fashion. We don't care about those ones. The only thing the Liberals care about is abortion, democracy, as in please vote for us, and healthcare, which there's not really much of a right to when you have to wait sometimes 63 weeks, like is happening in British Columbia, if you want a knee replacement. I'll let her finish it out here just to be respectful.
And I challenge you to figure out how you are going to continue to protect our rights and freedoms. And I'll give you a hint. It starts by telling Mr. Poilievre to keep his hands off of the rights and freedoms of all Canadians.
Okay, that's odd. I'm pretty sure Justin Trudeau is the bigger threat to democracy. The last time I checked, Poilievre didn't actually freeze the bank accounts of any Canadians or keep them from leaving the country if they didn't get vaccinated. That wasn't Poilievre. That, in fact, was Justin Trudeau. But the Liberals only think something is wrong when somebody else does it. Even if the person didn't do anything wrong, they're allowed to at least blame shift and pretend that whatever they did wrong is okay because someone else vaguely out there might have done something like they did. The left only thinks it's democracy when they win, and that's why they're extremely concerned ahead of the 2025 election that the Conservatives are going to win. And so now they're going to bring out all these boogeymen issues out of the closet, pretending that this is what the election's about. No, it's about you guys being arrogant and incompetent, and that's how people are going to vote, either in favor of your arrogance and incompetence or against it. And I think that more than probably 2/3 of people are going to end up voting against it in one way or another. Anyways, that should be it for me today, guys. Oh, I always sort of get so mumbly at the end of these videos. If you want to contribute to the legal fund, it's in the description below. It's the Give, Send, Go link. It really helps me out pay my legal fees for the stupid case I'm in against a Chinese billionaire developer. That would really help me out if you can contribute anything to that. And then there's also a link to the TNT legal fund in the description of this video. Oh, not legal fund. TNT Telegram channel in the description of this video. I'm getting frazzled. I'm about to do another podcast. I'm rushing. And then also, again, I'm Wyatt Claypool, and I'm running for the Calgary Signal Hill Conservative Party nomination. If you live in that riding and you have a Conservative membership, make sure to vote for me number 1 on your ballot whenever the election is called for this riding in probably the next couple of months. Have a good one.